Hi guys, and welcome to my very first video as a YouTube partner, and that is all on you guys. Much appreciate your support. Thank you for watching my videos. This also means that memberships are now open on my YouTube channel. So today we'll be doing a Q&A video. Thank you to everyone who submitted your questions. We have got some serious questions, we have got some fun questions, we've even got some weird questions, and I'll do my best to answer them all. There'll also be a couple of video greetings throughout this video. So hang on and let's get to it. So first question is in from Nicholas142, who's asking, who was the first FM content creator you watched? So the answer to that is Lokidoki. He's still my GOAT. He's still one of my absolute favorites doing FM content. And I stumbled upon his YouTube channel back in 2017 when someone poked me and said, hey, Mad Scientist, someone is playing your retro database and making a series on it over on YouTube. And I didn't, at that point, I honestly didn't even know that there was any Football Manager content around. I didn't know that it existed at all. So I tuned into this guy called Lokidoki, who was making a series on my 1995-96 database. And it was just such a blast watching him reminisce, being so nostalgic. Because for years I have made these retro databases for myself, for my friends, not sharing them with anyone. I started to do that in like 2015 or something like that. And as by 2017, I was dragged in by watching Lokidoki. And back then I didn't have any social media, believe it or not. So I made my first account on Twitter, on Facebook, all over the place. I got a Discord, Patreon, all that stuff, heavily inspired by Lokidoki. So thank you for your question, Nicholas. And let's get to the next question, which is from CM_Michael or Michel. Who's your favorite Wonder Kids from Championship Manager? Now that's a question right up my alley. Before I mention my all-time favorite Championship Manager Wonder Kid, let me mention a couple of the first that comes into my mind actually. Sherman Cardenas. This guy, I used to sign this Colombian on all my saves back in the day. He was 16 years old, I think maybe 17, when you could pick him up from Bucaramanga in Colombia for a bargain, and he could develop into be something very special. Sherman Cardenas, absolutely one of my all-time favorites, most definitely. If we go way back, I would say Mark Kerr. Mark Kerr from Falkirk. Back in the old Championship Manager games, his mental attributes was bonkers. You could buy him for a League 2 side, you could buy him for Barcelona, and he would perform fantastic and become a world-class midfielder if that's what you wanted from him. Mark Kerr is definitely a shout, but if I should pick one from Championship Manager, I mean, us who lived back then, played through Championship Manager those years, we all signed this guy, didn't we? Freddie Adu. I mean, when he was, what, 14? Freddie Adu, you remember him as well? The dog loves him. When Freddie Adu was like 14, 15, 16 on Championship Manager, you could buy him to whatever team again, and he would become the best player in the world. I have to say Freddie Adu as my all-time favorite Championship Manager Wonder Kid.
What's up? It's Freddie Adu, Championship Manager legend. Big shout out to the Mad Scientist. Peace.
Thank you, Freddie. What a freaking legend! It's Freddie Adu, ladies and gentlemen, Championship Manager royalty. All right, that was a mind-blowing thing to happen right there. I'm a little bit. All right, we need to get on. We need to get on with the next question. Let's move on, shall we? All right, next question is from Tiqualasi. Tequila C, or how your name is pronounced. Your question is, why are you Danish? Well, I'll answer the question as I see it. Well, I've wondered this myself many times. Tiqualasi. In honest, it must be because my mom is Danish and my dad is Danish, and they made me, so I'm Danish. There's no way around it. I'm sorry to say. Sometimes I'm proud about being Danish. Sometimes I'm not very proud about being Danish. If I should choose another nationality, I would have loved to be Italian. I've been into Italian football, as you can see, since I was a child. I lived in Italy for 6 months or something like that back in the day. I'd wish I could speak fluent Italian. So why am I Danish? It's because I'm born in Denmark. I'd wish I was Italian. That's my answer. Next question is from SNIG2ML. Do you have any more databases coming for the FM24 game cycle, or will you be waiting on the next FM game? A really good question, as we are now very, very far into the FM24 game cycle. When FM24 was released, I was working on the 0708 database, and by that point, I thought that would potentially be my only database for FM24. Then we learned about the delay, and then I hooked up with Mr. Tinney, and we agreed on making the 1994-95 database. By that point, I thought that was 2 databases for 1 FM. Brilliant. Then we learned about the cancellation on FM25, and here we are. I released the 1986-87 database. So 3 databases in 1 game cycle. I would say that I'm not planning on making any more databases for FM24. I'm looking very much forward to FM26 or whatever it's being called by then, to make a retro database on the new pre-game editor. So for now, no plans for any more retro databases on FM24, but who knows? Honestly, I said this after the 94 database, and here we are, 3 databases for 1 FM. That's how it goes. Let's move on. We got some more questions to answer. This one is from our good friend Parksy. What has been your favorite database to make, and who was your favorite player to use within it? Love that question, Parksy. So this happens every time I release a database. If it's the 0708 database, if it's the 86-87 database, I get people in my DMs who tell me this was the season I started to follow football, to fall in love with football. This was the era of my golden era for me, from my personal view. It happens no matter what database I release, and obviously I got one that hits me right on the sweet spot from my golden era when I was falling in love with football. Was my world. It still is this day, but you know what I mean, when I really started to fall in love with football. And that is the 1992-93 database, which I made for FM22. So for several reasons, I made the 92 database for FM22 because at that point it's been 30 years since the first Championship Manager was released. I wanted to celebrate that, as I've been playing Championship Manager. As you can see, I got Championship Manager Italia right there from 1993. I've been playing it since the very first edition in 1992. So to celebrate that, I thought the 92 season for FM22 was on point. There's more things to note from that season. It's the first Premier League season in England. The Euros 1992 was won by my nation, Denmark. One of the biggest upsets ever. So the 92-93 database is my personal favorite, and why not load it up and take a look at the 1992 database, shall we? So I can tell you who my favorite player was on the 92-93 database, to no one's surprise, obviously. It's Faustino Asprilla. So by 1992, Parma was still in a building stage. They were coming up from the Serie B 3 seasons prior. They were building a team, as I said. They only had a couple of foreign players, and Faustino Asprilla was one of the players who was the main reason that I became a Parma supporter back in the early 90s. And I had a fantastic Parma save on this very database. A couple of other mentionable saves I want to mention while we're here in 1992. I had a fantastic Bordeaux save. We got Zinedine Zidane, Christophe Dugarry, and we also had Vicente Lizarazu. These 3 players were the main reason why I want to start this Bordeaux save, mainly because of this 20-year-old Frenchman, obviously. Another save I had much fun with on the 92-93 database was Sevilla. Again, mainly because of a couple of players this time, Davor Suker and Diego Maradona. These 2 players were the main reason why I chose to start a save with Sevilla on the 92 database, and I had a freaking blast. Thanks for your question, Parksy. And to all you guys, let me know in the comments what season is your all-time favorite season in football. And let's move on to the next question, which is from Cleric Sender. Much respect for your work, but honestly, I don't get why people play retro databases, as you already know which players will do well. I'm very aware that these retro databases are not for anyone. We all play Football Manager differently. That's all legit, that's all valid, but as I said, back in the day, I made these retro databases for myself because I always somehow been a massive nostalgian. And I played these databases for myself. I didn't think anyone would be interested in them. When I then started to share these databases online, it still surprises me to this day how many people are sharing my nostalgia for football, obviously. So I do get your point in some way, in some capacity. But as I can say, we all play Football Manager very differently, and I do respect if retro databases is just not for you. Let's move on to the next question, which is from Arnold Arnold V. And this is not much as a question as a challenge. I love this, Arnold. I really love this because we are going to do a GOAT striker challenge. Who are your greatest striker of all time? Arnold asked me, and he have given me some options to choose between. I don't know if you're familiar with this format. I've seen some professional football players do this, and I've always enjoyed that, so I'm ready to give this a go myself. It's probably not as easy as it seems, but let's do it, Arnold. Who's the first two to choose between? Michael Owen versus Gabriel Batistuta. It's an easy one in my world. I do respect anyone else's opinions, and your answer will probably be different to mine during this session, but Gabriel Batistuta, let's go. Batistuta versus Didier Drogba. Oh, Drogba was a massive striker. He was incredible. He caused problems to many defenses in the world, but I have to go with my 90s legend, Gabriel Batistuta. Batistuta versus Ronaldo, R9. Now it starts to become a little bit difficult, to be honest. And maybe not as much because it's R9. We're going with R9. See ya, Batistuta. Much love, but R9 it is. R9 versus Ruud van Nistelrooy. This is an easy one for me. R9. R9 versus Zlatan Ibrahimovic. I'm a little bit afraid of Zlatan Ibrahimovic, so I'm being cautious with my answer, but it has to be R9. R9 again. He's on a roll. R9 versus Erling Haaland. R9. R9 versus Gerd Müller, der Bomber. Gerd Müller was a clinical, lethal striker way back in the day, the German striker was. But R9 is my era, so it's R9. R9 versus Marco van Basten. This is not easy. Now it's getting tricky. Oh, I loved R9. That's obvious. He's been on a roll so far in this challenge, but we're changing now. It's Marco van Basten for me. Marco van Basten versus Robert Lewandowski. Marco van Basten. Marco van Basten versus Alan Shearer. Again, it's Marco van Basten. Marco van Basten versus Romario. Oh, ouch. Now it's getting really difficult. Romario is not only one of my favorite strikers ever, one of my favorite players ever. Romario van Basten? Shit. All right. No matter what I answer here, I somehow feel I go against myself. I love these two strikers so much, but Marco van Basten it is. He's my GOAT. He is the one. He went through all this incredible short career, but with his stature, with his skills, Marco van Basten is my GOAT. Please be kind, guys, and let me know in the chat who your GOAT striker is. And there's one player missing from this challenge, Arnold, because my favorite player of all time, obviously, is Colombian Faustino Asprilla.
Chao, Científico Loco. Un abrazo, un saludo de parte de Científico Loco y del Tino. Chao, vela.
Muchas gracias, Faustino. It's the legend himself. He said my name. El Loco Cientistas. Cientistas El Loco. I love my name on Spanish. Forget about the mad scientists. Cientistas Loco. Faustino Asprilla. Freaking blowing my mind there. He's my GOAT, and he'll be forever. Let's move on now to the next question, which is from Jasmine Flo. Why don't you stream on YouTube? Now, this is my first partner video on YouTube, it's a very, very good question, Jasmine. I've been streaming on Twitch for many years by now, and I see a lot of people doing this multi-streaming thing, so they're both live on Twitch at the same time on YouTube. I will definitely be looking into that, so thank you for your question. Next question is in from OA Inbox. Will you be creating a mixed database? All-time best teams / players in their own leagues? This is actually a question that I get a lot. I get this question often. So there obviously is a crowd, there's obviously people who wants this, but it's never been something for me, to be honest. I love heading back into one specific season and see which teams and players were struggling back in that specific season, who were dominating the world and all that stuff. I have been looking into making a Legends database several times. It could be fun making it, but playing it, I don't see the long-term save. I don't even see a short-term save, because every team in the world will have all the Legends. I think that's what you mean. And I just don't see the reason to play a game where all your players is world class. There's no reason to develop your players. There's no reason to buy any players, from my perspective. But again, I won't rule it out. It's a question that has been asked so many times over the years, so who knows, at some point in time I'll look into it, but I certainly do prefer the specific seasons. Talking about seasons, on to the next question from Ognen Milanovic. What season will you do next? This is the question that I'm being asked most. Every single day almost. Even the day after I released a brand new database, I'm happy to launch my new database. The first question I get, what is your next season going to be, Mad Scientist? So there's always a next season. I have spoken on this before, that I planned that my first season on FM26 is going to be the 0910 database, because we are doing these voting polls where people have voted on all my social platforms on what database I should do next. And the 0910 has come in runners-up 3 times out of the last 5 times we have run these polls. So I hear you guys. I hear there's a lot of people who want that specific season, and that is why I'm planning on making the 0910 database for FM26. But first we need FM26. So let's see what will happen. Thanks for your question. On to the next one, which is from Tomi Kokiamaki. What is your dream 11? Only players from 1900 to 1999. Tomi, I love your question. Let's do this. Let's assemble a Mad Scientist Dream 11. And again, this is from my perspective. I do respect if you would have gone with other players. I'm maybe a little biased with some of the players I've chosen. Maybe some of the players I've chosen are not the best in the world, but this would be my Dream 11. Let's start in goal. I was a goalkeeper. Myself and my biggest idol as a kid was a goalkeeper. Peter Schmeichel in goal. Let's go. Bring in Big Peter. His presence in goal was unmatched back then. Still is to this day, in my opinion. Absolute baller. Right fullback / wingback. Let's start getting some Brazilians in, shall we? Cafu on my right fullback. That would be fun. Left fullback then. I would go with Paolo Maldini. I know I would actually maybe prefer Paolo as a central defender, but this leaves me with 2 more options to pick central defenders when we start Paolo Maldini on the left fullback. Central defense then. Now, this is where I'm biased. Parma all the way. Fabio Cannavaro, get in defense, my friend. That would be awesome. Yeah, he's in my Dream 11 any day of the week. And on the side of him, another Parma legend. It's Lilian Thuram. He can also play on the right fullback. But these 2 guys in my central defense, Thuram and Cannavaro. On to the midfielders. Now, I could choose a team where all players have 20 flair. That would be my way to do this. But if I'm choosing proper players, like I think I've done in the defense and in the goal, we need a proper midfielder who'll be class in any team in the world. Claude Makelele. Yes, Claude. Get him in your midfield. You can pick whatever players you want on the rest of the team. He got you covered. And on the side of Claude Makelele, give me a deep-lying playmaker who can also defend. An Argentinian, Fernando Redondo. Yes, Redondo, Makelele. That's my defensive midfield. And I'm going with my 4-2-2 formation, as you see, which has been my favorite on FM24. I am very, very chuffed about that defensive midfield, but now the fun begins. Now the creative players are coming in to play, and we need one of the most creative players with the best vision ever, definitely with the best passing skills ever. Call me biased all that you want. I want Michael Laudrup. Laudrup as an attacking midfielder. On the side of him, why not give me the divine ponytail, Roberto Baggio? Yes, please, Roberto. Baggio and Laudrup attack midfielders. Whoo, here we go. They will feed our strikers. Mainly Laudrup will feed our strikers. Baggio, he can attack as well. And my two strikers is going to be my GOAT striker, Marco van Basten. Then we know we'll get goals scored. And beside of him, one guess, guys. One guess. It's Tino, Faustino Asprilla. Now, here is where I'm saying, if I was being clever about this, I would maybe have chosen Gabriel Batistuta to play at the side of Mark van Basten, but my heart is talking. Faustino Asprilla up on top with Marco van Basten. And you know what? Couldn't it be fun to actually assemble this team on one of my retro databases and play a season or two with it? Well, that's what I've done. So what I've done is I have put this team together on my 1994-95 database. I have chosen to take over Padova in the Italian Serie A, one of the smallest teams in the league. So we will be playing against the best teams in the Italian Serie A, Inter, Juve, Milano, Parma, for an example. And by 1994, the Italian Serie A was the best league in the world. So how do you think this team will do simulating one season on the 94-95 database with this starting 11? Do take into consideration that a couple of our players are not even into the prime yet. Fabio Cannavaro is just 20 years old. He looks awesome, but it's not its prime. Lilian Thuram is 22 years old. Definitely not in his prime either. Cafu is 24 years old, still playing in Brazil in Sao Paulo that season. So a couple of our players are still very, very young. Makelele is 21. It's not the world-class Makelele that we know, but we also do have players in their prime. We do have difference makers like Roberto Baggio and Marco van Basten, obviously. But Faustino Asprilla with 11 in finishing. How well will this team do in one season on Football Manager? Let's simulate and find out. So here we are at the end of the first season. We got some tired players. That makes sense because we only got 11 players to work with. But take a look at some of the stats. So Mark van Basten, 40 appearances with 46 goals, 11 appearances, 8.01 rating, average rating that is. Faustino, 25 goals, 11 assists with 12 in finishing. Vamos Faustino, incredible season, but this takes the cake. Roberto Baggio, 34 appearances with 28 goals, 16 assists, 10 player match awards. 41, 34, 23, 13 overall. Robbie Baggio pulled through. Michael Laudrup, 13 goals and 18 assists. Cafu with 21 assists. This team have done well, hasn't it? But how did we finish in the Italian Serie A? Have we won anything this season? Coppa Italia, maybe. We're not taking part in any continental football. We won the Italian Serie A, we did. Padova ruled the world with my dream starting 11. We won the Italian Serie A ahead of Juventus, Lazio, Milan, Inter. And we also won the Coppa Italia. We got the double. There we go, Tommy. This was fun. Testing out my all-time starting 11 on the 94-95 database. This is so much fun. Let's get on to the next question, shall we? It's from Happy D. Where did you get the data from for the older databases where you don't have old official databases to work with? Now, this is a very good question as well, Happy D. Thank you for asking. Because as many of you guys know by now, when I released the 0708 database, my working progress is essentially manually copying all the attributes, player information from Football Manager 2008 over to FM24, and then we have the 0708 database. But as you ask, Happy D, when I do a 86 database, when I made a 92 database, there's not much information in context of player attributes on Championship Manager to get for those players. So it's a whole other beast to work on these databases. For an example, the 1986 database. What I did is that with some of the young players on the 86 database, like Roberto Baggio, he's 19 years old, I can still get and use his player attributes from Championship Manager. So his dribbling, his finishing, all his attributes are essentially from Championship Manager. But a younger version of Roberto Baggio, so I scaled them down a little bit in context with his current ability and potential ability, so they work along with his attributes. For those players that never been on Championship Manager or Football Manager, like who should we say, Michel Platini, there's no attributes to go and get for him. So what I've done is I've researched for years, reading articles about his traits, his strong sides, and so on. I've watched video material. I have basically researched for all those players myself, and I've done that for years. It goes all the way back to 2018 when I started to research from my first 80s database. I keep all that information in my own personal databases, so I could use some of the work that I've already done back in the past for this latest 86 database. I hope it all makes sense, Happy D. Thank you for your question. I really appreciate it, and I hope it made sense what I ever said. Now on to Nathan Tomlinson. I remember you saying on the Football Manager Therapy podcast that you once had a beef with Sports Interactive. Mind telling us what that was about? First of all, I want to take the word beef and scratch, because there's never been a beef between me and Sports Interactive. That's the first thing I want to say. What I talked on the Football Manager Therapy podcast is that it's obvious that Football Manager don't like me as a content creator, and I want to elaborate on that. Obviously, I'm not just talking out my ass, I'm not just guessing. So if we go back a little to when I announced that I was going full-time Football Manager content creator back in 2022, by then I had noticed that when other content creators announced on Twitter that they're going full-time, like Tom FM, Clates, Omega Luke, etc., I've seen those guys make a post, I'm now going full-time FM content creator. And then the Football Manager, the official Football Manager Twitter account, would retweet their posts and also leave a little a nice comment. So the day before I posted my announcement, I went into the Football Manager Twitter profile and I saw, yes, they are following me. Beautiful stuff. I already knew that, obviously, but I just wanted to confirm. Skip on to the day later, 24 hours later, I made my announcement on Twitter, on all platforms, that I'm going full-time Football Manager content creator. I'm very, very proud and privileged to make this announcement. And during that day, I got thousands of notifications. I got a lot of great, beautiful DMs from people congratulating me, and it was a lovely day. I even got contacted by several different media sources, mainly from England. I was interviewed on the day by a newspaper in Manchester. The Athletic reached out to me. They wanted to make an article about me and as a modder, as a retro database content creator who's now gone full time. That I have that dearly in my heart, that article from The Athletic. So it was a crazy day when I announced it. Later that day, it came into my mind again. I don't think I've seen a comment, a like, anything from the official Football Manager account. So I went back to the Football Manager account on Twitter, and suddenly they don't follow me any longer. So on the day I made my announcement, they stopped following me. That's a pretty clear sign for me. So what I think happened is that someone way up in the hierarchy within Football Manager have told the social media team, we cannot be following this guy because he's mainly a modder. And to a degree, I do understand Football Manager. I'm not mainly known from my content on YouTube or my Twitch streams. I'm mainly known from my databases, and because that's modding the game, I try not to take it personally. That's what I'm trying to say. But to add to that story as well, right around that time when I went full-time, Sports Interactive invited more than 60 people from around the world to come and visit the headquarters. It was a beautiful initiative. People like bloggers, YouTubers, anyone doing content creation for Football Manager that they seemed should be recognized were invited to the Sports Interactive headquarters. Except for me. And by that point, seriously, I was one out of 10, 15 people in the entire world who was making a living from making Football Manager content, and I did not get an invite. That it did hurt. Honestly, that did hurt a little bit. But again, I try not to take it personally. But me, who's played Championship Manager, Football Manager, all my freaking life almost, I've dedicated myself to this franchise. Getting any recognition, any at all recognition from Sports Interactive or Football Manager would be bucket list for me. That's the only reason why it hurts a little bit. I hope I have elaborated enough for you to understand why I'm saying that Sports Interactive are not that fond of me. And that's fair enough, because I'm mainly a modder. If I get 100,000 YouTube subscribers, maybe they can't neglect me anymore. But here we are. I hope that answered your question, Nathan. And thank you for submitting your question as well. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate all your questions, guys. We could carry on for a long time, but I think this will be it for today. Maybe we'll do another Q&A video at a later time. Now, this was it. To celebrate us going YouTube partner. Thank you for watching, guys. Now more than ever, it's important to say, please subscribe, please hit the follow button and the like and all that stuff. I'm not a professional yet, but here we are. Appreciate your support, guys. Until next time, see ya.